Okay, good morning, class. And we will be today talking about management. Okay, so let's actually discuss about the management. Mm, just a moment, please. Right. So when we talk of management, actually, so what we will actually uh, we have already discussed when we were talking about management. Management is just below the board of directors, which is headed by the CEO, and the management works on the directions of the CEO, right? And so we're actually going to talk more on the different levels of management, the CEO, and other issues related with the management. So we start with the levels of management. In the managerial management structure of management, there are three levels: top level, middle level, and the lower level. The top level, where you have the executive director is there, so and where you have the it's basically the executives, the top level executives, the executive director, managing director. So they're the ones who are up there, and so they're the basic roles up there is for executive coaching. They are responsible for the change management, leadership, diagnostics, empowerment, right? Middle level managers are all the departmental heads who are up there. They are mostly concerned with the problem solving, team building, then talent development, performance management. And the lower level management is the operations level, which is taking care of the emotional intelligence and coaching for performances. Okay, so what do you mean by the levels of management when we say, right? There are many managers who are working in organizations, but they do not have the same position. They work in different levels, and so this hierarchical position in the managerial in the management is called the levels of management. There are three levels, as we said: the top level or the administrative level, middle level or the executive level, lower level or the supervisory level. Top level, we have, along with the CEO, we also have the board of directors. Right, board is also there at the top level. CEO, the other name is general manager, managing director, or the president. Right, so the board, they are the ones who are representing the shareholders. They are elected. That's why they are elected by the shareholders. Right. Same thing. CEO is also elected by the board of directors. What are the roles of the top level management? They determine the objectives, policies, and plans of the organization. They are responsible for mobilizing all the available resources, bringing them together at the right place, and putting them into action. They are involved with the thinking, planning, and the decisional procedures. So that's why they are called the administrators and the brain of the organization. Their brain thinks, makes decision. That's what they do. They spend more time in the planning and organizing. They are responsible for making all the long-term plans of the organizations. The long-term means 5 to 20 years. That's done by the top level. They have the maximum authority and responsibility, and they are the top. They are the top authority and final authority in the organization, right? So they are directly answerable. That's why to the shareholders, government, and the general public, right? So the success or failure of the organization largely depends upon how efficient the top level management is, how efficient, how good are they in their decision making. So which is why they require more of conceptual skills, because they're not actually involved with the work, so they require less technical skills. Next comes up middle level management, which is basically, as I said, the departmental heads, the branch managers, and the junior executives, right? So they're up there, and they are selected by the top level management. So the middle level management gives recommendations to the top level management. executes the policies and plans which are made by the top level management. They are also responsible for coordinating all the activities across all departments, and they have to communicate with the top level as well as the lower level management. So they are in the middle, the communicator between the two levels. That's why they spend more time in coordinating amongst department, communicating between amongst the two levels, top and the lower levels. They are responsible for the short-term plans of the department. Short-term is usually 1 to 5 years, right? And they have limited authority because they do not make any decisions. Limited authority, limited responsibility. They are in between top and lower level managements, and they are directly answerable to the CEO and the board of directors. So they require more of managerial skills, more of technical skills, and less of conceptual skills. Coming to the last level, the lower level of management, that's where we have the supervisors and the foremen, right? And they are selected by the middle level management. They're also called the first line of management because the employees report to them first. They're the first line in the management level, right? And they are also supervising, that's why supervisory. Looking after the operations, that's why they are operative level of management. They're the ones who directs the workers and employees, develops morale in the workers. They maintain the communication link between the workers and the middle level management. So it's the lower level management who informs the workers about the decisions that the management has taken, and they also inform the management about the performance, the difficulties, feelings, demands from the workers. So feedback also comes. They spend more time for direction and controlling. So, and they're responsible for making all the daily, weekly, and monthly plans. They have limited authority, but they have a very big responsibility of getting the work done by the workers. So they regularly report to the middle level management, and they are answerable also to the middle level management. So what do they need? They need experience to handle the workers. They also require basic management skills. Along with that, they also need to know the technical skills, otherwise they will not be able to direct the workers, not able to know whether the workers are working properly or not, and good communication skills, communicating with the workers. Okay, head of the management, that is CEO, right? The highest ranking executive in a company, right? Who's heading the management, whose main responsibility is to develop and implement high-level strategies, making major corporate decisions, managing the overall operations, resources of a company, acting as the main point of communication between the board of directors and the corporate operations. Okay, a CEO also holds a position in the board, and sometimes the CEO is also the chairman. Okay, the role of the CEO varies from one company to another depending on the size and operations. In small companies, what happens? CEO will be taking have a greater role in the company, involving in a lot of the business decisions, even in the lower levels, that's hiring of the staff. Whereas big companies, what happens? CEOs are mostly involved with the high level strategy and giving the direction, right? While the other works are dedicated to the managers and to the other department people, right? So duties and responsibilities, CEO is responsible to the board, right? And it's the board and the CEO who works together to develop the policies and plans, which should be aligned with the interest of the shareholders, right? And the board has to ensure that the CEO is not subjected to any sort of political interference. Operations, CEO, it's up there to develop and implement the operational policies, strategic plans, annual operating plans within the limits prescribed, delegate authority, and the framework of the strategic directions approved by the board. As per the directions approved by the board, based on the directions, CEO develops and implements all the policies and the plans. Okay, it reviews, it maintains a regular policy review process, revises or develops policies for presentation to the board. It also ensures that all the regulatory requirements are being met, ensures that everything is operated within the approved budgets and the operating plans, and keeps the all the keeps the board aware of all the issues and what is coming up, and keeps them makes them aware of it, and also ensures that the company meets the audit requirements. Okay. Next comes up is human resources. They also maintain an working environment which helps in improving the morale of the staff and improves, which leads to the better performance of the staff. Okay, so they are also responsible for implementing effective human resource programs, where which basic idea is to give training, not just recruiting also, but also performance management training, successful planning, employee retention, compensations comes up. Okay, they are the ones who's responsible for directing, maintaining, and motivating and maintaining the staff, who should be is well trained and flexible and responsible to meet all the demands. The CEO is good, is a good leader. Obviously, the team also will be really effective, right? Develop the overall organizational structure, and whatever changes has to be made recommendations to the board with regards to the organizational structure, and when develops and maintains an annual board approved plan for the development and succession management, right? Next comes up is the roles, develop annual planning guidelines, looks after the development of the company's annual service plan, recommend strategies to achieve the goals and objectives of the company, recommend to the board the annual operating and capital budget, and upon approval of the service plan and annual budget, and with full authority implement the plan in the right manner. Informs the chair of expenditure out of CEO contingency, monitor the corporation's performance, how against the set objectives, and gives a quarterly performance report to the board, looks after the day-to-day operations and activities of the organization. As per the instruction from the board, it also has the authority to approve all goods and service purchases, all capital purchases, lease commitments, and disposition of tangible assets. Looks after the preparation of quarterly budgets, annual report, financial statements. Okay, is accountable to the board of directors for the activities of the management, right? Carries out all the functions and duties of the that the board requires the CEO to do so, and is maintains an overall responsibility to the board of directors for implementation of all the board policies and the effective and efficient operation of the corporation. So it's the CEO's responsibility to ensure that all the policies are being decisions made by the board is implemented successfully. The CEO works to support the board members and the chairman. They participate in the annual CEO performance evaluation, provides interpretation of government policy for the government policy. So that interpretation has to be provided by the CEO to the board, provides leadership and direction to the staff of the organization, and also has the authority to appoint officers and employees who are needed to carry out the business and operations of the companies, define their duties, decide on the remuneration, evaluate performance, take up disciplinary actions, and settle issues of conflict, act as a negotiator. So CEO is the prime spokesperson of the corporation, communicates closely with the public with regards to how the organization is operating, and also performs other duties or activities as required by the board from time to time. So what sort of compensation do CEO gets, right? Compensation for performance has a direct impact on shareholder value, right? So it does have, because if the performance of the companies is really good, like that means shares also goes up, right? And so CEO is also getting rewarded, as shareholders are also happy, so there's a positive relationship. So if compensation is connected to performance, then what happens? All other shareholder initiatives becomes the secondary. Like if compensation is unrelated to performance, what happens? In all the other shareholder resolutions won't make a difference, because what happens if the CEO is paid high irrespective of the company not performing well, then what happens? Even if the shareholders uh, protest, right, shareholders interest are still not taken into consideration, so it does not make any difference. So it's always best to have the performance related, compensation related with performance, right? That is all, that should always be there. Compensation, because compensation presents an investment opportunity. If CEO's compensation is high, it implies that company is really doing well. CEO is really performing well. So is putting in effort, is a very good CEO, efficient. So people have trust in that company, people would start investing. So that's an indicator. Compensation plan is an indicator about the company's value. Okay. So, and also for a shareholder would also want to invest in a company where where you have a CEO whose compensation depends on the money that the shareholder will receive. So what happens when the company is making profit? Like, it should be like in such a way that it should not happen that the shareholders do not get any benefit and CEO gets benefit. It should not happen. The CEO should get compensation, but keeping in mind that the shareholders are also getting benefited. So it should be divided properly, right? Otherwise, it doesn't help. Or if the company is not doing well, nobody's getting benefits, CEO is getting all the benefits, then it doesn't help. So shareholder initiatives on compensation have some special requests. Appeal, that is, shareholder CEOs get paid a lot for one reason. Why? Because they take risk. So their compensation should provide the appropriate incentives for these risks. So that is what they have to say. If the company fails, it may not be fault of the CEO, but CEO is taking that risk on behalf of the shareholders. Ensure it could happen, because there are sometimes things are there in the external environment that have changed just beyond the control of the CEOs. It's not the fault of the CEOs. So why should the CEOs be penalized? So if the CEO is going to take that risk, they should get something in return. That's the compensation. Okay, so what to the extent that a shareholder initiative can better align with these incentives, it is an investment with substantial returns. So that's what it's basically. So compensation, you can actually talk in terms of it's an investment, hoping that there would be some returns which would benefit the shareholders. So shareholders goals, interest are also being aligned. So this has to be there. The incentive as well as the shareholders interest has to be aligned. Okay. If the shareholders cannot act when it's out of control, the system simply isn't working, right? uh, Executive compensation unrelated to performance is just one. It's one of the symptoms which says that the corporate governance mechanism has failed to ensure management accountability. So it's just a failure. Okay. So, there's always a conflict of interest between shareholders and management with regard to compensation. It's there. Uh, the conflict is not over. It's not with regard to the amount of compensation, but depending on the variation in the compensation. So shareholders want the compensation to vary with performance as much as possible. If the company does not do well, CEO should not get compensation. If the company does well, then they should get based on the nature of success, degree of success. But on the other hand, what managers have to say is, they're the ones who are taking the risk, right? They are taking the risk with so they need to be also given some sort of protection, some sort of returns for that. So that has to be there. So if the company feels that may not be the fault of the CEO, so why should they be penalized? Right? So what in 1992 the focus on compensation it continued, because at that time the Securities and Exchange Commission reversed its long time policy and allowed the advisory shareholder resolutions on compensation. Later on they again reversed another policy to allow votes on proposals. They allowed for voting on proposals that would require companies to have shareholders approval before they go for repricing stock options. So they made it more mandatory, SEC made it more mandatory for the companies to take shareholders approval. So coming to the next thing, that is stock options, right? So as we said, the compensation plan is a clear indicator of the company's value as an investment, right? There could be many compensation plans, and one way of compensation is stock option. So what is stock option? It's a financial instrument which allows the stockholder or the option holder the right to buy or sell shares of a certain stock at a specified price for a specified period of time. Okay, and these stock options are traded on exchanges, just like the stocks themselves, say Apple, ExxonMobil, etc. The price of the option can be higher or lower than the original price when it was first listed, when they are being sold. Okay, this is considered to be the ultimate example of compensation of performance. So the company gives the option recipient, that's the CEO, the right to purchase a portion of the company's stock at some point of time in the future at a strike price. That is strike price, which is the time is that the price is set at the time of rewarding. What is that strike price? It's often the present trading price. They decide when the CEO would be getting that stock, right, at a price, which is the present or the current trading price, but the stock is not given right now. It means it may be given after 6 months. Okay, some of the key terms with regards to options. Call option is where it allows the option holder the right to purchase the stock at a set price within a set time. Put option is it allows the buyer the option to sell shares of the stock at a set price within a set period of time. Strike price is the price at which option can be exercised. Okay, premium is the amount that the buyer of the option pays for the option. Okay, so you can read this blog, what are stock options and how do they work, to get more information. So how do stock options work? How do they work? Now, what happens is when we actually, when we talk about how do they work, the first thing that we need to talk about is the major problematic aspect of stock option is repricing, reissuing stock options when the stock price is below the option price. That's the problem. That's the main troubling aspect. So what happens? This actually removes all of the risk to management and all of the benefits to shareholders of the stock fund. So when your stock price is below the option price, that's the problem that comes up, right? So for the purpose of incentives, it is just like giving the managers a cash. So one of the beneficial aspects of shareholder involvement is that repricing of stock options has been today widely discredited, like it's not given importance today. There's another kind of option award, which has nothing to do with the performance. This is called awarding of huge option grants, where so even an increase of $1 a share will lead to half to $1 million payoff, even if the gain is at or even less than the rest of the market. Okay, so it's like repricing. Enormous option grants remove any downside aspects of any compensation plan. That also, like the compensation plans, the lower side, like the compensations can sometimes fall down, like if the company is not doing well. So enormous option grants actually removes all that problems. Like in that case, if enormous option grants are given, then the compensation does not decrease, even if the company does not do well, so it doesn't have a problem, right? Okay. Now also to when shareholders look for when they're talking of options, what they look for is that they tie that options the returns to the company's performance rather than to the performance of the market. Like they're not bothered. Say company is not performing well because the market is not doing well, but the shareholders are not concerned about the market. They just look into the company's performance. So that's what they look into. If the share is not doing well, they feel the company is not performing. It could be that the share market is not doing well, but shareholders do not look into it. So how to solve this is to index the options. That's one way, so that the strike price rises with the stock market. If that happens that way, the compensation also is an indicator of the performance of the company's stock. Strike price rises as the stock market, with the stock market also rises, strike price rises. So then it reflects the company's compensation reflects the performance of the stock. Another option is to grant options at a price which is greater than the current stock price. That can also be there. Okay, so the other, instead of stock options, some companies actually use restricted stock grants. Restricted stock grants is where they award stocks with limits on its transferability for a set time, usually 2 to 3 years. Okay, so but sometimes during the executive's entire tenure with the company, so they can hold it for a specific period of time, 2 to 3 years, after which it is they have to give it up. But sometimes if the stocks can be given to the executives till the time they retire. Okay, an executive granted restricted stock will always make money unless the stock goes down to zero, because they will sell it at any point of time and get money. Okay, there's another thing which we have is repricing option grants. So what is it? It's a situation involving exchange of stock options that are no longer in the money for options that are currently for the money. So stock options which are not doing well, which so it's cheap. It's withdrawing, companies withdraw that and in return launch other options which is more in demand, which investors would want to invest. Okay, so types of option repricing and exchange. In case of a repricing on exchange, what happens? A company, as I said, it offers to cancel the original options which are not doing well, and they would actually issue new options or new stocks. Okay, so what are the different types of repricing option grants? One is value for value option repricing. So in this case, what happens? A company will actually withdraw all those options which are not doing well. They will withdraw, and in place they will issue in the market new options, but lesser in quantity. The valuation will be same. Say suppose if a company had three shares, three different type of options, and the total valuation is 20,000 say rupees, or neutron, as you say, three options. And it happens that one of the options which is say doing well, which is 10,000, the other two options are 5,000 and 5,000, so another 10,000. So two of these options are not doing well, say one 10,000 and one 5,000, they are not doing well. So the company, what they do is they withdraw these two options, that's 10,000 and 5,000, they withdraw, so total amount is 15,000. In place of that, they will launch one new options, new shares, okay, which is worth 15,000. So now you have in the market only two types of options. One is 5,000, other is 15,000. So the total value still remains the same, that is 20. So they withdrew the old options and in place launched new options, but less in quantity. They withdrew two and relaunched one new. But the total valuation is same, 15. Withdrew 15, launched 15. Total, so 15 plus the what was already there, which is there doing well, is 5, that is 20. So that's called value for value option repricing. So the valuation remains the same. You're withdrawing 15, launching 15, but you have repricing it. You had 2, 5 and 10. So instead of 5, 2, you launch 1, which is 15. Next comes up is value for value option exchange for stock. So say what happens is, if there are if the company has again two different if we take the same example, three different types of all stocks, as one is 5,000, one is 5,000, 5,000 and 10,000, and this 10,000 is not doing well, so they withdraw that 10,000, the stock worth 10,000, and issues another stock which is worth 10,000. So value for value, same value, you're exchange for one in place of the other of same valuation. One for one option repricing. So here what happens is the company withdraws all those stocks which are not doing well and issue same number of stocks, but pricing can change. Say initially the company had three different types of stocks, three different, one was 10,000, other was 5, another 5. So in this case, this 10,000 was not doing well, right? So the company withdraws this 10,000 and in place issues another stock whose valuation does not have to be 10,000. It could be 8,000, it could be 12,000 also. So one for one, replacing one with another, but changing the pricing. It's not the same price. Valuation changes. Okay. The last one that comes up in this repricing option grants is where we talk of value for value option exchange for cash. Here what happens, that's the last resort where the company withdraws all those options which are not doing well and in turn pays cash to the cash of the which is equivalent to the initial options, the value of the original options to the customers, to the investors. Okay, so next thing that comes up is shareholders' concerns or issues. What are the shareholders worried about? What are they concerned about? They are concerned with regards to the compensation practices. One comes is the guaranteed bonus. Okay, guaranteed bonus, for the CEOs, like when they join, they are assured a bonus, a guaranteed bonus, irrespective of the circumstances, irrespective of the fact whether the company is doing well or not. So they are guaranteed that. It's just given, it does not, and it's nothing to do with the performance. So that is one concern. Second comes up is deliberate obfuscation. That is, obfuscation is unclear. So where the company makes the executive package, which is very much confusing. It's not very clear to the shareholders. They just say that yes, they will get compensation, and based on the performance, they will get. But performance, that compensation, linking that compensation to the performance becomes very, very difficult. So it's confusing. The package is very, very confusing. Christmas tree. Christmas tree, as you can see, you all of us, all of you know what a Christmas tree is. If you see from a distance, what do you see? It's full of lights, it's decorated, it's attractive. What is inside there? What else? We do not get to know until and unless we go close by and see what else is there. So it's a similar thing, you know, where compensation plans here, you know, they have things which are they outside it says the company says, okay, CEO is getting compensation plan. That's fine. But what is inside that? There is the compensation plus. There are a lot of additional things which are not being said. You get to know only when you actually go and see it. Okay. So that's what it is. That's a lot of other things which adds up along with the plans, which is not been declared. Compensation plans that are all upside but no downside. If the company does well, the CEO's compensation goes up. Say it goes up today to 20,000 say neutral. Next year, say because of COVID, the company has not done well. So what happens? Compensation, CEO's compensation remains at 20,000. It does not go down. So it goes, compensation plans are always upward rising. It does not go down. Loans. CEO of a company cannot take loan from their own, from the organization, from the company. They cannot take it. Why? Because it's the CEO who approves the loans. Other employees can take it. CEO approves it. So if he or she is taking loan and he or she has to approve their own loans, there can be misappropriation of funds. It may not be said. Okay. Phony cuts or pretentious cuts. So here what happens in it's also called a highly publicized cuts. Say where the CEOs will actually say, okay, I've reduced my compensation package. I've reduced it. So I've reduced it by 2%. So 2%, say, what is it? The people would be very happy that the CEO has himself or herself reduced their compensation plans. But 2% of what? Is it 2% on the entire compensation, or a portion? Say it could be you remove, you are giving up on ownership of one of the stocks. What is it? What exactly is that? So that is not being said, but you say this. Golden hellos. Golden hellos are also called joining bonuses. Like whenever CEOs are joining the company, they are being given with a huge compensation, which is called compensation for joining bonus. That's also called golden hellos. Welcoming the CEOs. Transaction bonus. Transaction bonus, when it's a anytime the CEO is going for a merger, or signing on for a merger, or going up for a new project, whenever they are signing, so they get a bonus for the transaction, irrespective, before even the project actually takes off. The project may be a success, may not be a success, may be a failure. What the shareholders have to say is, give the bonus after the CEO successfully completes the project, not before that. Retirement benefits, like even after retirement, sometimes CEOs are getting compensation, post-employment compensation. So that is something which the shareholders have objection, because CEOs are no more contributing. So why should they get benefits? Okay, to address all the problems of the stock exchange markets, to ensure that the stocks of the companies are operated in the right way, right? To dispel fears or concerns of the shareholders, the Securities and Exchange Commission was formed. It's there today in every country. They are operating under different names in different countries. Okay, so it's the principal regulatory agency that regulates and makes compliance issues for the securities industries. Main mission is to protect the investors and also to maintain the integrity of the securities market. Securities market includes the primary as well as the secondary market. Okay, so the SEC monitors various important regulatory and compliance functions, looks after the other key participants in the securities markets, that is stock exchanges, broker, when dealers, investment advisors, mutual funds, asset management companies. So they look after it, and they are appointed by the government and have the responsibility to formulate the securities legislation and administer, not just formulate but also administer it quite properly. So when we talk of the functions, they are mainly dealing with the activities related to disclosure of financial information, then enforcing the securities rules and regulations, and protecting individual as well as institutional investors who interact with these organizations, right? So if we look in what are the main functions of SEC: to control the stock exchange and other security market business, to ensure and determine and also ensure that all the activities of the stock broker, sub-broker, share transfer agent, issue bank, of manager, trustee deed, issue registrar, underwriter, portfolio investment, and all other bodies in the share market. So their activities should be registered with the SEC. Everyone related in the exchange for the securities exchange market, the share market, and the everyone related with the stock market, all the activities that they do, that has to be registered. That means it has to be legally approved. To register any type of stock exchange scheme, that includes mutual fund, and monitor them, not just register but also monitor and control them. To develop, monitor, and control securities market were all authorized and self-controlled bodies as well as organizations. Okay, to also develop investment related knowledge. When we talk of investment related, all sort of investment related knowledge, and also provide for training facilities for people involved in the security market. To have a control over the speculative business, especially related for security purposes. Okay, and to actually also take shares and stocks of companies and control of companies. To have an inspection of the security dealers, issuers, and stock exchange, and also ask them to provide information if needed, investigation done, conduct audit. They should be analyzing, discussing, and conducting research for any activity related with security. SEC should be disclosing and preserving any information and data related with security market. So this is how the SEC helps in developing the share market and protecting the interest of the shareholders. So the main objectives of SEC: to ensure that the share markets operate in a fair and orderly manner. The securities industry professionals should deal fairly with their customers. Okay, they should not cheat. All the corporations should make public, that's where disclosure come up, disclosure with all their information, so that the investors have full knowledge about the company when they make a decision. How can the SEC actually achieve these objectives? By making it mandatory that companies disclose all their materials related to business and finance, by overlooking or overseeing and monitoring the operations of the security regulatory organizations, by adopting rules with which those involved in the purchase and sale of securities must comply, and filing lawsuits or taking actions in case where the law is being violated. That's how they can do it. But despite all these protections and all, it's important for investors to remember that they have the ultimate responsibility for protection. SEC cannot do anything. It's the investors who have to decide how they want to go about, where they want to invest. Okay, the next topic that comes up is employment contract. Whose employment contract? It's the CEO's. CEO's employment contract is not revealed to public. It should be, but in reality, it's very difficult to find. Where are they found? They are filed as an attachment to the company's 10K, but not sent to the shareholders. That's why shareholders are really wants to know what is there in the CEO's contract. Why is it not being revealed? So that's the problem that comes up. Okay. Now, CEO's contract, there are three things which is up there, which is included gross ups. Now, that's where these are the three clauses which is there. What happens? Most CEOs at the end of the year they end up owing some extra income taxes on top of what they pay. They have to pay something extra. And who pays that? It's paid by the company. Most of the contracts have a provision where the company has to pay the extra income tax that the CEO has to actually pay. CEO pays a part of it, rest of it that is paid by the company. That if that contract is revealed to shareholders, shareholders are definitely going to protest. Deemed years of service. Now, what happens? The benefits, the pension, the compensation, the benefit, the pension benefits that is there. Pension, it's based on the years. The pension benefits comes out based on the years of service. So what happens? Sometimes the companies actually make up the total years of service that the CEO is actually served in the company, the years of service in that company, and so the pension benefits goes up. They show that the CEO has worked for more than, say, 10 years, where the CEO may have worked for only 5 years. And that's why it's not revealed to the shareholders. Okay. Yeah. Next comes up is cause. CEOs, who are terminated with a definite cause, for a definite reason, they do not receive full package of their termination benefits. But if they are terminated without any cause, then they are given the full benefit. Okay. Now the problem that comes up here is what the cause. What is the cause? That cause is not defined properly, right? The contracts, CEO's contracts are made in a way where it's impossible to terminate employment of the CEO on the basis of poor performance without without saving some money. Cause in most cases, what is it dealt with? It's talking about fraud, embezzlement, negligence, or morality, right? That's basically mostly defined, but very few contracts usually talk of poor performance as the main reason for cause. Very few contracts talk about it, right? So what happens is that like some of the contracts do not refer to performance as a if the CEOs fail to perform. That's also a clear indication that they should be terminated. So that is a reason to terminate a CEO. So they do not refer to it. They do not think performance as a parameter to determine the efficiency of the CEOs. So that's another thing. Now, what happened also, the recent push to make termination without cause payment equal those for termination in connection with a change in control is particularly troublesome here. Okay, so that's the next thing that comes up. Like change of control, right? Change of control, why is payments? It's basically to ensure to align the interest of the CEO with that of the shareholders. Change of control is you will be, when you say to the CEO that you will be terminated if you do not work in keeping in mind the interest of the shareholders. Right. Now what happens is that this is a very easy way of asking the CEO to go. CEO has already taken the benefit compensation at the beginning and they're going. And when they're leaving, they're also getting some benefits. So it's a loss for the company. So that has an additional cost. This is a very big cost that comes up, right? It comes up when you are firing an unsatisfactory CEO. So there's you cannot file a case. But the CEO is leaving, CEO is taking all the benefits, CEO has got all the compensation. So that's where it comes up, change of control. Change of control, what happens? It's if the shareholders feel that's one way of penalizing the CEO, but it's not so, because CEO when they leave, they will get all the benefits and they're going. So it's a loss for the company. So change of control that actually does not always bring benefit to the company, it's a loss also, right? So and the shareholder, because the CEOs already have a share in the company, so they get benefits when they give up the ownership. They're getting the benefits, returns, dividends, and then they're going, right? So that's what the so what happens in that case. So the departure of the CEO becomes very painful. It's a painless departure. So it's basically it acts as it's a disincentive for anyone, any shareholder who wants to, any potential shareholders or potential investors. So what do they find? They see that oh, the CEO is not performing. They are asking to go. No penalized. Nothing is happening. So no actions are taken. So what sort of company is this? Why do we invest? When CEO is going out, leaving the company, with the money that is given to the CEO is shareholders' money. So that discourages shareholders. Half now, half later, right? So CEO, when the CEO signs a contract, they want all their incentives, everything to be given at the very beginning, right? So, but what should be done is like what shareholders said, that give part of the compensation at the beginning, leave the rest based on the gifted based on the performance. So that would be an incentive for the CEO to perform really better, and so that the company also gains, profits come, and CEO also will get the rest of the benefits. Okay. The next topic that we have is employee stock ownership plan, or ESOP. What is it? It's a employee benefit plan, which is mainly formed to invest primarily in the stock of the sponsoring employers. Okay. ESOP are qualified in the sense that ESOP sponsoring company, the selling shareholder, and the participants they receive various types of tax benefits. So it's used as a corporate finance strategy, and it's used to align the interest of the company's employees with that of the company's shareholders. It helps. It's an employee benefit plan. It's employee stock ownership plan. So employees are given stocks, so employees become stock owners or shareholders. Right. So ESOP, it's used to keep the participants focus on company's performance. When employees are given shares, they become shareholders of the company. So what will happen? They would ensure that the shares are performing well. So that can be done if the company performs well. That means the employees themselves would have to perform well. So this is an incentive for making the employees actually be committed. Right, because the employees themselves are shareholders. Right. Now, what happens how does ESOP work? So employees can buy the stocks directly. It can be given as a bonus to them. They can receive as stock options, and they can opt in stock through a profit sharing plan. They can get it. Right. The companies can use ESOPs for a variety of reasons, variety of purposes. Right. ESOP is mostly used to provide a market for shares of departing owners of successfully held companies, to motivate and reward employees, to take advantage of incentives, to borrow money for acquiring new assets. It can be done. So in any case, in whichever in most of the cases, ESOPs are contribution to the employee, not an employee purchase. It's a contribution. ESOP rules. What are the rules? It's, as I said earlier, it's a employee benefit plan. It's very much like a profit sharing plan. So where a company sets up a trust fund which contributes new share of its own stock or cash to buy existing shares, right? Either its own shares or has money to buy shares of others, and these shares are allocated to individual employee accounts. Generally, all full-time employees over 21 years can actually buy these shares, right? And as employees gain seniority, they acquire an increasing right to shares in their account more. They have a right to have more shares in their account. So this process is also known as vesting. Okay, so when employees leave the company, they receive their stock, which the company must buy back from them at the fair market value. They will give back the stock to the company and get the fair value for it. Okay, so when we talk what are the merits and demerits of ESOP, right? Now, shares in the ESOP are divided, as we said, amongst the existing employees by on the basis of seniority that is there. Uh, Now, how does it, when we talk of the merits and demerits, we can talk of from the point of view of the employee, right? It's an asset for the employee, where the employee receives the company stock without any cost. It's a tax deferred benefit. What does it mean? That the employee who holds shares in the ESOP does not have to pay the taxes on the gains until the time they sell their stock. So then only they pay the tax. But then what happens? Like the tax is paid from the returns from the gains that they're getting. They do not have to pay anything from their pocket. Okay. What are the drawbacks is basically with the issues of diversification and control, because ESOPs have same type of shares. If the shares do not do well, if an employee has invested most of their income in that ESOP shares, then and the company ESOP is not, that share is not doing well, then they are negatively affected. What about the firm? How do they benefit and what are their problems, right? A company which is owned by an ESOP has a significant advantage in terms of control, right? Uh, all or a large portion of the company's stock is very likely to be voted on against the wishes of the management, right? So what is happening here is the ESOP trustees first act on the benefit of their members, not the company's management. So employees who are working in the company who are also investing in ESOP, in their ESOP, so their voices are given more importance because they are the shareholders. Management companies management is not, their voices are given important secondary input. They are secondary, they are not given more importance. The members, the shareholders voices are given more importance. This is one advantage of the firm. Who are the shareholders? The employees who are actually doing the work, right? Now what happens is, this is the first in ESOP we find that the workers are on the same side of the table as the company management because all are shareholders. So the employees and the management, they sit together and work together for the success of the company. Drawbacks are when we have the huge amount of money required for setting up the business, and also when the employees are leaving the company, so the companies, they have to buy, the company has to buy back that stock. That is quite a huge amount. What are the advantages and disadvantages of the business owner? How does it affect the owner? The owner gets huge amount of large payment and various tax benefits. If the company sells the firm to an ESOP, they get a large payment. They get some tax benefits. Disadvantage is what happens is it's basically when we talk or when they are trying to sell a company, right? The company is not doing well. A company with, it's very difficult to sell the company which has with an ESOP also. So you can sell your company, but if you also have ESOP, there's two separate establishments. That's a huge cost. huge amount of investment that is involved there. Like people may want to buy your business, but people may not want to buy the business as well as the ESOP. So that's the big challenge, right? We come to the last topic, that is effective monitoring of management, right? What is monitoring and evaluation? Monitoring and evaluation, it's a process that helps to improve the performance of the managements and to achieve the desired results. So the main goal is to improve the current and future management of outputs, outcomes, and impact. It's used to assess the performance of the various projects that the company undertakes, institutions, and programs set up by the organizations, right? So when we talk of monitoring, it's a continuous assessment that aims at providing all the stakeholders with detailed information at the earliest on the progress or delay of certain activities, right? So good planning combined with effective monitoring and evaluation can play a major role in building up the effectiveness of the various plans and projects. Okay, like so monitoring, as we said, is measuring the progress, how far the company is able to deliver a plan, project, or program implementation and operation with the view of learning and correction at time. It's like a plan. It's a draft is made, and then when that plan is put into practice, a plan is made, put into practice. How far it's being implemented in the implemented successfully. How far the plan is successfully implemented, right? How far it's how effective is the operations level, and if there are flaws, like whether how effective is the system in which are how effective is the system in making corrections if they've made a flaw, right? That's monitoring. You measure it. And evaluation, when you talk of evaluation, evaluation is a periodic review of the performance, review of the performance of a plan, project, program. Like how is it going? How is the plan? How's the project? How it's being done? So monitoring is measured when you measure the progress and how in where the delivery is concerned, and evaluation is when the delivery is going on, how effective has that been, right? So monitoring, when we talk of monitoring, so it is a continuous assessment of the implementation of projects with relation to what was planned or expected, right? So how far you're assessing how far the plan has been successfully implemented as what was expected. You have a desired results and what is actually being happening, whether it's matching or not. Okay, so monitoring provides managers and other stakeholders with regular feedback on the project implementation and also indication of progress, problems that is there, problems in achieving the results, and what adjustments has to be made. Whereas evaluation is a periodic assessment of the relevance, the performance, efficiency, and lack of interest of projects in relation to the when the impact of these projects in relation to the objectives. So assessing the performance, efficiency. Okay. Why is evaluation undertaken? It's to review the progress, to predict the likely effects and identify the necessary adjustments that has to be made in project design and monitoring. That tells us what are the changes that has to be made. So the basic thing for monitoring and evaluation is they are both management tools. When you go for when monitoring happens, data and information collection for tracking progress according to terms of reference is gathered periodically. Okay, whereas in case of evaluation, in case of evaluations, it doesn't happen. Okay, and this collection of data information collection doesn't happen during the time of the evaluation. Monitoring is a short-term assessment and it does not take into consideration the outcomes and impact. Whereas for evaluation, it assesses the outcomes and the impact, the longer term impact. Monitoring is short term, evaluation is long term. Evaluation is a systematic and objective examination which is conducted on a monthly, yearly basis, but monitoring is a continuous assessment on a daily basis, right? So again, monitoring, it looks after all the activities at the implementation stage, whereas for evaluation looks for information on regular intervals. There are 6 steps which are involved in designing an effective monitoring and evaluation system. What are these steps? First step is to establish the purpose and scope of the M&E system. M&E means monitoring and evaluation system. Why do we need to have M&E and how extensive the system should be? Second step is identifying performance questions, information needs, and indicators. So, what do we need to know in order to monitor and evaluate the project so that it can be managed effectively? Next comes up planning, information gathering, and organization. How will the required information be gathered and organized? Fourth step comes up is where we talk of planning, critical reflection process and events. That is where we say, how will we make sense of the outcomes of the information gathered? How can we make sense of it? And how will it be used to make improvements in project implementation? Fifth stage talks about planning for quality communication and reporting. That is, how and to whom do we want to communicate the project results? What project activities and processes do we need to communicate? And the last step is planning for the necessary conditions and capacities. What resources and capacities do we need to ensure that the M&E system works effectively, right? If you read these 2 articles, these 2 readings, that will talk to you more about effective monitoring and evaluation system. Okay, so that's all that we have in this unit. So for further discussions, we will have it in class, and please go through it. If you have any questions, if you have any queries, so we will talk about it. Okay. Okay. That's all that we have for today.